Up we go. Right, nice. Walk you down now, somebody, alright? Out, yeah? No, what? We'll sort all that out downstairs.
A man with a very, very dark past who consumed large quantities of coke, as in the Class A drug, during an all-night binge where he visited a number of massage parlours for around 8 or 9 hours, then drove his work van through Manchester city centre, ultimately killing a 3-year-old girl in an horrific crash, has been sentenced to prison. So I'll go through how long he's got sentenced at the end of the video. You're going to be shocked. Raul Rehman, who's 36, killed little Luisa Lulu Palamisano, a joyful and much-loved child whose presence her grieving parents say once lit up every room. The crash occurred in February of this year and unfolded on what was meant to be a happy family day out. So I'm going to go through a little bit of Raul Rehman later, but with regards to this incident, on the morning of February the 22nd, Lulu and her parents, Renzo Palmisano and Pilar Riviera, were walking along Mosley Street near Piccadilly, enjoying their time together in the city. Lulu was dressed in a baby harness held by her mother, was walking between her parents, holding both of their hands. They had paused near the tram lines to watch a tram pass by, a sight that fascinated Lulu, who hadn't seen many trams before. But in the blink of an eye, their peaceful outing turned into an unimaginable nightmare. According to evidence presented at Manchester Crown Court by the prosecutor, Rachel Shenton, Rehman was behind the wheel of a work van when he collided with a tram and then veered off the road, mounting the pavement where the young family stood. Witnesses said the van seemed to accelerate as it attempted to cross the tram lines, as though trying to beat the tram. Moments later, the van struck the tram and rebounded towards the pavement directly into the family. Lulu was hit and dragged beneath the vehicle. Her mother later told authorities that she saw the van roll over her daughter more than once, a vision that still haunts her to this day. Passers-by, including a doctor who was at the scene, rushed to help the child. A father desperately tried to lift the van off her, succeeded only on his third attempt. Meanwhile, her mother called emergency services in a panic. Lulu was rushed to hospital with a severe head injury, and despite every effort by medical professionals, she tragically succumbed to her injuries. A priest came to give her a blessing, and her parents held her hand as she sadly passed away. Rehman, rather than staying to help or offer accountability, ran away from the scene immediately after the crash. Witnesses reported that someone tried to convince him to stay, but he climbed out of the passenger side of the van, uttered an apology, and ran away. One onlooker recalled Lulu's distraught mother screaming, "Look what you've done! Look what you've done to my daughter." So the full extent of Rehman's reckless behaviour became clear during the investigation. Police discovered that in the hours leading up to the collision, he had spent more than 10 hours engaging in a drug-fueled activity across 2 massage parlours. Surveillance and witness statements reveal that he spent over 7 hours at the Ladybird massage parlour, where he was seen by a worker taking up to 20 lines of coke in a 3-hour span. After being asked to leave at around 6 o'clock in the morning, he refused until the premises had emptied. He then drove to another establishment, Tropical Palms, where he spent an additional 3 hours. He left there just 10 minutes before the fatal collision occurred. He later admitted to a probation officer that he had continued taking coke at the second location. At the time of the crash, Rehman was employed as a self-employed courier. The van he was driving was found to be an unroadworthy condition and did not have an MOT. Further digging into his past revealed that Rehman had previously served a prison sentence for setting fire to a car that had been involved in another fatal collision. So I'll come to that right now. So with regards to this man, as we just stated there, he was involved in another fatal collision. So how did that go on? So throughout his younger years, Raul Rehman had various brushes with the law through drug dealing and one incident of failing to stop after an incident. However, it soon became clear he was involved in much more serious. This man who goes by the name of Craig Rogers, he was knocked down in Chorlton in March 2014. The driver was a Mohammed Chowdhury, who was 26 years old at the time, and he was speeding at the wheel of a Porsche Panamera he had borrowed from a friend to impress a woman when he was on a date. Chowdhury fled to Dubai a week after the incident, and some 13 months later, he lost his own life in a high-speed crash. While Craig was left dying in the road, Chowdhury organised the Porsche to be burnt out on a car park in Chorlton Nature Reservoir. He recruited two men to help him, one of those being Rahman, who then torched the Porsche. Initially, he was jailed for 45 months for that after pleading guilty. A conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. However, his sentence was reduced to 3 years after taking his case to the Court of Appeal. However, after being released on license, he quickly became embroiled in a conspiracy that involved an assassin's kit, ammunition, wedges of cash, and huge blocks of drugs. He went on to lead a drugs gang, all of which were jailed. The potential lethal firepower of this Chorlton-based gang were revealed in a series of photographs they took of each other. They included one of the gang with a machine gun across his shoulder and another flashing cash and expensive watches. The group had been told by its leader Rahman to make sure they carried a piece when transporting drugs. So, in court, the emotional gravity of the case was palpable. Lulu's parents delivered a heartbreaking victim impact statement describing the seismic loss their family has endured. Her mother said, "Lulu was our only child and remains the heart of our family. She was full of life, curiosity and love. Her presence lit up every room and her absence has left a silence that words cannot fill." They recalled how they had simply been standing together, holding hands, waiting to cross the street carefully when everything was torn apart in a split second. So that single moment shattered our sense of safety, our routines and the path we thought lay ahead. The emotional pain that followed has become a constant companion woven into every part of our daily lives. Courtroom in Manchester. The final moments of the trial of Rahul Rahman were marked by silence, tension and heartbreak as Judge Alan Conrad KC prepared to deliver his sentencing remarks, words that could offer justice but never restoration for the life of 3-year-old Louisa Lulu Palamisano. Addressing Rahman directly, the judge did not mince his word as he described the utter devastation caused by the defendant's decisions. He condemned Rahman's conduct in the strongest terms, outlining the catalogue of dangerous, selfish and unlawful choices that led to the irreversible loss of an innocent child's life. Judge Conrad began, "This is a tragedy born entirely of your making. You made the decision to consume large quantities of Class A drugs during a prolonged all-night binge involving multiple visits to massage parlours. You then made the incomprehensible decision to get behind the wheel of a vehicle knowing full well you were unfit to drive and with utter total disregard for the safety of others." The judge went on to describe how Rahman, under the influence of drugs and sleep deprived after more than 10 hours of reckless behaviour, drove an unworthy van which had no MOT through Manchester city centre, ignoring road signage and failing to observe basic traffic laws. He noticed the eyewitness described Rahman driving at speed, failing to stop at a junction and taking no action to brake before colliding with a tram. He said, "You showed no caution, no control and no concern for anyone but yourself, and the result was catastrophic. A young child out with the parents, holding both of their hands excitedly watching a tram go by, was struck and dragged beneath your van. Her final moments were marked by confusion, trauma and pain, and her parents, standing helplessly beside her, were forced to witness what no parent should ever have to see." Said Lulu's death has caused an unfathomable wave of grief for her parents, for her extended family and all those who knew her. Her short life was filled with promise, joy and boundless curiosity. She was a beacon of love in her family's life. That light has now been extinguished, not by chance, but by a freak accident, but by your reckless drug-fueled actions. He added that it was only by sheer luck that Lulu's parents survived the crash and that other pedestrians and tram passengers had not been harmed. The judge also condemned Rahman's actions following the collision, describing them as cowardly and callous. He said, "Instead of staying to help or face the consequences of what you had done, you fled the scene. You left behind a shattered family, a dying child and a community reeling in shock." So while acknowledging that Rahman had eventually pleaded guilty, the judge made it clear that his cooperation came too late to demonstrate true remorse in the eyes of the law. He said, your guilty plea spared the family of a full trial, but it does not erase what you did. No sentence that can pass can ever measure up to the value of the life that has been lost, nor can it reflect the depth of sorrow felt by her parents. So Judge Conrad sentenced Rawal Rahman to 12 years in prison, a term that reflects both the severity of the offence and long-lasting impact it had on the victim's family and the wider community. But let me know what you guys think, because 12 years in prison for taking a life, do you think that's justice? The judge said, you will serve at least 2/3 of that term before being considered for release. Even after you're released, the consequences of what you've done will continue, not only for the family of the little girl whose life you took, but also in the form of restrictions placed upon you. In addition to the custodial sentence, Rahman was banned from driving for 13 years and 6 months, a disqualification that begins only after he is released from prison, but he is legally allowed to drive again, and he must pass an extended retest. The judge said these additional sanctions are necessary to ensure public safety and to prevent you from ever again getting behind the wheel without proving that you're fit and capable of doing so, something you fail to demonstrate in the most tragic way imaginable.